Topic 1. Markets and geopolitics. Markets and energy sectors swung sharply on fresh Iran war developments. Oil spiked over $100 intraday, then plunged after President Trump's remarks, while global equity indexes and U.S. Treasury yields reacted sensitively. Trump said control of the Strait of Hormuz was being considered and predicted the conflict could end very soon, yet warned of far stronger retaliation if Iran were to block shipments. The Strait of Hormuz risk, Iranian warnings about shipping, Saudi Aramco's catastrophic impact warning, and tanker safety concerns sustained energy supply anxiety, while G7 ministers considered coordinated strategic reserve releases, US proposing roughly 300 to 400 million barrels. LNG was highlighted as especially vulnerable to prolonged disruption, and central banks are re-evaluating policy as inflation and growth risks from supply shocks and market volatility rise. Topic 2. AI and regulatory clash. Anthropic sued the US government after the Pentagon labeled its model a supply chain risk, and presidential direction led agencies to halt use, marking the first use of that designation against a domestic firm. Anthropic says the move threatens billions in government and private contracts after failed negotiations over red line limits on military or mass surveillance uses. The company argues the designation and orders are unprecedented and violate free speech and due process rights. The case drew industry support via amicus briefs from AI researchers, even as OpenAI moved to contract with the Defense Department, and Anthropic's product usage and visibility rose amid the dispute. The outcome could set a major precedent balancing corporate safety commitments against national security controls, with broad implications for AI governance, competition, and civil-military collaboration. Topic 3. Live Nation Ticketmaster Settlement. Live Nation and the DOJ reached a settlement that avoids a court-ordered breakup of Ticketmaster a week into trial, with Live Nation agreeing to pay about $280 million to states and adopt measures to reduce market dominance. Ticketmaster must offer an independent primary ticketing system accessible to rivals, unwind or dispose of long-term exclusivity with 13 amphitheaters, allocate up to 50% of non-exclusive tickets to other sellers, cap ticket fees at 15%, and accept bans on retaliatory conduct. Several states criticized the late notice of the deal, and some, including New York, announced they would continue litigation. The judge also voiced strong displeasure at the timing. The settlement eases immediate uncertainty for investors, but imposes structural constraints that could reshape ticketing competition, while legal challenges continue. Topic 4. China trade surprises. China's combined January-February exports rose about 21.8% year-on-year, and its trade surplus hit a record around $213.6 billion, with imports up roughly 19.8% and semiconductor exports surging nearly 73% by value. Exports to the US fell by double digits, while shipments to the EU, ASEAN, Latin America, and other Asian partners rose sharply, reflecting shifting regional demand patterns. Analysts cite strong AI-driven semiconductor demand and some Lunar New Year timing effects, alongside tariff easings, as drivers. But questions remain over sustainability given domestic weakness and demographic challenges. The data complicate US-China tensions and global supply chain dynamics, while Middle East disruptions and elevated logistics costs pose downside risks. Topic 5. Market and financial shifts. Warnings mounted about private credit stress as the $2 trillion-plus private debt market shows liquidity, transparency, and redemption vulnerabilities, with some managers imposing gates and default rates projected to rise. 2025 default estimate to 9.2%. Shadow banking pressures, leveraged hedge funds, repo activity, large stablecoin balances, and concentrated treasury holdings raise systemic spillover concerns as insider selling and risk-off positioning have increased. Big capital moves continue. Pershing S.